Broadcasting from the Civic Cypher Studios, welcome to the QR Code, where we share perspective, seek understanding, and shape outcomes. The man you are about to hear from is a man who knows how to throw a party, trust me, but he thinks he's retired. He is the Q in the QR Code. He goes by the name of Q Ward.
The voice you just heard, I think y'all know he be lying. And he be lying all the time. I am retired, and I'm definitely not throwing no parties. He, however, is the R in the QR Code. He goes by the name Ramses Ja.
And we need you to stick around. We have a special show in store for you. Later on in the show, we're going to share in our entertainment segment a story about wrestling fans chanting F Ice at a major event in Las Vegas. It was very much surprising to me. I'm learning that wrestling fans are pretty diverse, but still, I'm sure there's a lot of people that were surprised by that one. We're going to have some dialogue. How do you define pretty? How do you define beautiful? Maybe there might be two different answers there, so stay tuned for that as well. And the biggest part of the show is what's going on in the culture, so expect us to lean into this fully. The Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show was a cultural moment, and it warrants our dissection. And today we brought in a pinch hitter, an expert on all things Puerto Rico, a long time, an amazing radio personality, event host, DJ, and of course, our friend and brother, the great Theo Gio. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. He's all Puerto Rico'd out for folks that can't see him.
Came ready.
We love that. So we're gonna talk about that moment and how beautiful it was and what it meant, and of course some of the backlash from conservative circles. So all that and so much more to stick around for, as always. But right now, it is time for us to get into our feel-good feature. And today's feel-good feature comes from MSN/The Street. So turns out Apple's Tim Cook has adopted a position insofar as ICE is concerned. You might notice that theme in today's show. Cook told staff he is deeply distraught by the current U.S. approach to immigration, and said he will continue to press the issue with lawmakers, according to Bloomberg. He added that he has heard from employees who no longer feel safe being in their own communities. Quote, "I've heard from some of you that don't feel comfortable leaving your homes. No one should feel this way. No one." Unquote. He told workers during an all-hands meeting, according to Bloomberg's account of the event. The same meeting included Cook's pledge that Apple will lobby U.S. lawmakers on immigration, with a specific focus on employees working in the United States on visas seeking alpha reported. He goes on to say Apple is a, quote, smarter, wiser, and more innovative company because we've attracted the best and brightest from all corners of the world, unquote. You know, a lot of times we have to explain why we chose this as a feel-good feature. Many of you know that Tim Cook hasn't always been on the right side of things. No one is. But in his case in particular, him being at the inauguration of this president felt a little hurtful to a lot of folks. I just remember that moment, a lot of people having a lot to say, Q and myself being a couple of those individuals. However, him taking any position on ICE, I recognize that he's a capitalist and he's only focused on Apple employees and not the vulnerable populations around the world, but it's another powerful voice that is condemning this extreme approach to immigration, this racist approach to immigration, and it feels good to know he's saying that and not the opposite of it. And as I've said many times, we take the wins where we can get them nowadays. So with that in mind, let's get into something that I've been very excited to talk about. So as you mentioned, or as I mentioned yesterday, I didn't see the Super Bowl halftime show. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I was waiting for Q to tell me what he saw, just in case some of our listeners might be hearing it for the first time. You could hear it along with me. Here's what it looked like, here's what it felt like, and so forth. And I don't think that I expected that moment to come and go, but I guess yesterday and this morning, I thought, wow, my timeline is just full of so many people celebrating just how special this was. And of course, there's the negative comments and the detractors and whatever. So the reason why we have Gio in the studio with us today is because Gio is lifelong Puerto Rican.
True that.
You didn't just come to this party. And somebody that has been able to see Puerto Rico rise to prominence, throughout his life in many different at many different points in time. And the reason I know this is because Gio and I grew up together. Yeah. We've known each other since we were literally children. And so I've been able to kind of explore the world through the lens of a Puerto Rican because his mother adopted me. She taught me how to dance. She made food for me, took care of me when I was sick. And of course, Gio's been my brother the whole time and Q's brother this whole time. So I wanted to have a conversation with you about how, or we both did, of course, wanted to have a conversation with you about how this feels because we feel like it's more important than we're able to articulate, right? And you were able to anticipate it and then watch it happen. And then of course the cultural moment that we live in with, us being very divided politically and, all this sort of stuff. Being able to give us and our audience some insight into how this moment feels, I think is very special. So again, we're going to stretch our legs here. I think the first place I'll start, Q, because I know that we're going to we both have a lot of questions, but I'll start. For folks that didn't know what was taking place, that don't speak Spanish, that, maybe don't get it, but were receptive to the performance, can you bring us in linguistically and articulate to us sort of the theme, maybe some of the things that Bad Bunny was saying, maybe what his music is about, what he was dancing to, just so we understand the theme behind it?
Yeah, so this, his last album in general was kind of like an ode to Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. And, he's just coming off the Grammys, which he won for the first time ever, a Latin Artist won Album of the Year for a full album that was in Spanish. And the Spanish the album was pretty much like a dedication to Puerto Rico. So to tie everything with what's going on currently in the United States as far as ICE and immigration, it was a monumental historical moment for him to be on that stage and to put out the love of that he has for the island, and for the people in general, and to be so inclusive too at the same time. There's many layers to what you saw on the screen or what you saw during that halftime show, and it's a beautiful thing because he incorporated the past. He incorporated not just Puerto Rico itself. He incorporated other Latinos. He incorporated America, all of America. So it was a monumental moment that I am like super, super proud of. I'm over the moon. What is?
So as far as like maybe some of the stuff that he said, I know that there was a billboard up there. I didn't want to jump in front of you, Q, but I know, as far as there was a billboard, and I remember seeing this from the still shots. It said, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love," something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the messaging that he was saying in Spanish or in the music when he was addressing the crowd there?
Well, at one point he spoke in Spanish directly to the camera, and if you didn't understand the translation, he was saying that basically he never stopped believing in himself.
Okay. And
that you should as well never stop believing in yourself.
Okay.
At the same time, being he don't speak English. Like he's learning English.
Yeah,
English is new to him.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he's always been a U.S. citizen. He's always been Puerto Rican. He's always been Latino. He's always been rooting for the culture, and he's always been inclusive and looking out for everyone. And for him just to do that on the biggest platform possible, it's love. That's what it is. Despite all the hate that's going on, it's love. That's, why he didn't tour in the United States with this last album.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with that, he had a residency in Puerto Rico, and the main reason he didn't tour the United States was because he didn't want ICE agents to show up and detain his fan base.
Oh my God.
So that's the reason he didn't perform in the United States. He was looking out for his people. He didn't want his audience being targeted because they knew, like, Bad Bunny's coming to town. He's the biggest artist in the world at this point.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to put his people, his fan base, people that enjoy his music, in harm's way, essentially.
Q.
There were so many like cultural shout outs that without even trying to see them, you would see that Rams and I would notice, but that you would see immediately. You know, that story that was being told from the sugarcane fields to the taco truck to, you know, I don't know what to call the dessert that they made with the ice.
The piraguas.
Yeah, giving his Grammy to the kid who I think symbolized all kids from where he's from who have a dream to be beyond the space they were born into. The women doing physical labor. And I think that's something that we collectively all resonate with. The women doing the same type of work that men typically do. The fighters that were boxing. Like, I got hype watching that. I can only imagine what that experience was like for you, like Gio. So as he was telling that story and going through all those cultural totems, what did that feel like for you as you were watching?
Whew. I felt pure pride. There was moments in there where I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. He kind of went through the story of Puerto Rico from the opening shot for the sugarcane. If you may not know, that was one of the big things when Puerto Rico was first colonized, I guess you can say. When the Spanish hit, they took the gold first, hence the term Puerto Rico, which means rich port. So once they found that there was not as much gold as they could profit from, they switched to the next thing, and that was sugar. So the sugar canes, when he started in that field, that's what it was representing. He had the people with the bava hats. That's the straw hats that you saw. And a lot of times, like, if you don't know Puerto Rico, being Puerto Rican, and this is true throughout a lot of the Latin American culture and community, we're a mix of three different types of people: the Taino Indians, the Spaniards, and the Africans. And a lot of the times the Africans and the natives, those were the people out in the field doing the work. So for him to open up with the sugarcane and being in the field, that's like showing the colonizers or the colonization, this is kind of where it started from. This is what we've overcome in a way. So it's a unifying moment to begin there, because he's starting from kind of the beginning of the colonization of Puerto Rico and a lot of other Latin American countries as such.
I was going to ask a funny question.
Go ahead.
Because, okay, so let me not talk to you. Let me not talk to you, Q. This is for you listening. So I know these are my brothers, right? And both of them are extremely proud of where they come from. Q, of course, from Detroit, and Gio from Puerto Rico, from New York, of course, but Puerto Rican. That Puerto Rican pride has always been part and parcel to not just your life, your whole family's life. And not just your whole family's life, literally every single Puerto Rican I've ever met loves them some Puerto Rico, right?
Yes.
And I'm starting to see, and I've seen for a long time, but I'm starting to see sort of how that pride could be reflected in some of these, I guess, to the uninitiated, they seem like background elements. Like you said, a cane field, a sugar cane field. I would never think as deeply about that. It just kind of brings island vibes almost. You know, I didn't realize, the connection there.
Oh yeah. It's a very prideful thing. You pretty much won't find a Puerto Rican without a flag.
That's facts.
That's something that we hold very dear to our heart, and there's a reason behind that.
Okay.
Because at one point in the island, when it was colonized by the United States, it was actually illegal for Puerto Ricans to fly their own flag. So there was a gag law against that. So if you were flying your own flag in your own country, you would be arrested for it. So that's why the Puerto Ricans, us Puerto Ricans, are very proud of that flag, because we can wave it with pride. And to touch on the flag too, there was a moment where he emerges from the cane field, and you notice the Puerto Rican flag, the original flag, has a lightish blue for where the star is. It was only allowed to be flown after United States made that blue to the same blue of the American flag. So, yeah. So that's when we were able to fly that flag. So there's kind of like a multitude.
Is that why the Cuban flag the blue is a little different?
The blue is a little different in the Cuban flag. Now, the Puerto Rican flag is modeled after the Cuban flag.
Okay.
It actually was created in New York, though. A lot of people don't know that.
Hey.
So the Puerto Rican flag was created in New York City. But it was even the first flag my family is it's called Lopez de Lares, but there was a Grito de Lares, which means the screaming of Lares. There was a flag that was created there. It's very close to the Dominican flag. It has a cross down the middle, squares. If you're not knowing, Dominican flag is very similar. They're all Caribbean countries, and we're all like right next to each other, right next to each other, and we all have similar histories, similar people on the island. Yeah. So for us, that flag, being able to wave that proudly, it symbolizes our resiliency, what we stand for as a people. And it's just something that we have to spread to the world. I think a lot of times too, you touched on like Roberto Clemente and who he is what he means to Puerto Rico and to others around the world. He himself, he's a dark-skinned Puerto Rican. So he played in the Negro Leagues. He got it from all ends. And he was the first Latino that was actually inducted to the Hall of Fame. So that's another first for Puerto Rico. He also tragically passed away by trying to give aid to people to Nicaragua. And he died with exactly 3,000 hits, which is a huge thing for baseball in general. You hit the 3,000 hit mark, and he passed away with that exact number. So there's a lot of pride with being Puerto Rican, and given that opportunity to do a lot of the things that we've been able to do, like a lot of the first, as far as like hip hop, we were there from the beginning, the onset. We were in the Bronx. First Latin rapper to go platinum was Big Pun. Yeah, Big Pun.
I remember when that happened.
Solo artist. Yeah.
we were
so like there's a lot of firsts, and I feel like as a Puerto Rican, just us being so proud of who we are, it would do a disservice to us at the same time if we didn't include our fellow brothers and sisters at the same time.
Okay. What does that mean?
That means like, he had the opportunity, Bad Bunny, he's on stage, the whole world is looking at him, and he's incorporating some elements of different cultures at the same time. Like the taco stand, you don't really find tacos in Puerto Rico.
That's Mexico.
But that taco stand was there. It's a Los Angeles-based taco stand too. That's a real taco stand.
Oh, okay.
That person sells real tacos in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So he's giving ode to Mexican culture.
Sure.
He's spreading the love. If the piraguas that you mentioned, which is the shaved ice, on the bottles, which is the syrups that you use to pour in the shaved ice, he has the Mexican flag. I think he had the Venezuelan flag. He had the Puerto Rican flag on the actual bottles. Now, you're not going to get those on the actual bottles if you're in Puerto Rico. That's not what it is. But he's doing that to spread the love, to spread the light, and say like, hey, we're in this together.
Okay.
And another thing that I want to touch on briefly is that, Bad Bunny, within that halftime performance, he performed on these power lines. There was a scene where he got up there and he starts talking, and prior to that, you see people fall off the power lines. Well, in Puerto Rico, something that has happened to the Puerto Rican people, which are U.S. citizens, when Hurricane Maria happened, it was first hit by Hurricane Irma. The power grid in Puerto Rico has always been problematic, but people went without power. U.S. citizens went without power for 6 months to up to a year in certain places. Now, you may be asking yourself, like, what is the significance of that? Well, without power, that's that goes for hospitals, that goes for medications, that goes for food. People were having to have food brought into them. That means if you don't have food and you don't have medicine, and you have old folks in nursing homes, you have Puerto Rico's always hot, so there's no AC, there's no power, there's nothing. You had a ton of people that died. In fact, it was more U.S. citizens died in Puerto Rico from the power outages, basically, essentially, in Hurricane Maria than what happened in 9/11, than what happened in Hurricane Katrina. It is has the most fatalities for any U.S. disaster that occurred to U.S. citizens. And could you imagine just any states in the United States that didn't have power for a week? Do you know how upset people would be? But these are U.S. citizens that this happened to. So that was a symbolic moment that a lot of people might have missed when he got up there and he was performing from that. That's what he was making mention to and speaking about.
Q?
I think something that I really need people to understand from the halftime show is that the outrage had nothing to do with Bad Bunny not being American. It had very little to do with him speaking Spanish. It had almost everything to do with him not being white. And we kind of miss on solidarity opportunities because we get into these trauma wars where my struggle was harder than yours and I'm from a different part of the world than you, and we kind of silo and fight these wars against the same oppressor, but we fight them separate. What he did that was so brilliant was all of America, right? This entire hemisphere was represented in that performance. And with that comes what you just mentioned, Gio. African slaves were in Puerto Rico too. And that solidarity that we have as brothers and sisters, Bad Bunny could have siloed Puerto Rico as he very, very proudly stood on Puerto Rican culture and was he was like a superhero. I maybe I'm trapped in the moment and maybe it'll sound hyperbolic, but that was my favorite Super Bowl performance ever.
Yeah, it was.
And what Kendrick did last year was so incredible too. So I have to mention that. But yesterday was like a doctor or two doctors, right? I read something that says Kendrick diagnosed the problem and Bad Bunny brought the medicine for it. It was such a beautiful way to tie them together. But he could have made that moment just about him, just about his people, and he made it about all of us and presented us all as Americans from everywhere that we're from, because, the transcontinental, African slave trade touched all the Americas. And that's why you see all these beautiful mixes of cultures, all these different shades of brown, all these different seasonings and spices, like the Colonel, 11 herbs and spices. We got way more than 11. That moment for me was so powerful because Rams and I talk about our kids so much. Our mixed children were shouted out last night and represented, or not last night at this point, at that show. And I don't know, man. We all got to be proud. We all got to feel represented. We all got to be tapped in. And I just think about our stories, the times that we've hung out, the trips that we've taken, going to Mexico, DJing, being at the club, and just the love that we've always shared without there being specific borders. But we understand that collectively, everybody doesn't feel the way that we do. And I think what Bad Bunny did was he invited everyone in to this love solidarity space where we can take on this moment together with love. He was not agitated. He was not angry. He was not mean-spirited. He was very passionate, but it was to lead with love. That's something that Ramses says to me all the time, because I spend a lot of time angry about what we're collectively dealing with. Ramses always recenters it at love. And I think about, Gio and I specifically, we did not grow up together, but I was Gio's brother when I met him. It wasn't like this gradual thing that took years to happen. Like as soon as we met, he embraced me and treated me like family. Did you guys, I'm talking to both of you now and to our audience, please respond if you want. Message us, send us a DM. Did you guys feel that part? Like I felt like, not like I was Puerto Rican, but like he was also including me. And what we have felt with each other as brothers, I think he invited everybody to feel that.
Can I say something before you do? All right, watch this. So this was many years ago. We might have been maybe 14, 15, something like that. And Gio, you said to me, Africa is alive in Puerto Rico. You said it just like that. You said Africa is alive in Puerto Rico. And you remember, might have been around that time, Carlos Santana, who's not Puerto Rican, but he had that album Supernatural that came out. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out this works. And your mom started trying to teach me how to dance. And I started trying to learn Spanish through music, and Adiyami would help me, and you would help me. And I felt like this is for us. This Africa there's songs that celebrate Africa in Puerto Rico. So I wanted to get in front of that. It's your question to answer, but I lived that moment, and I still know all the, like, I'd probably say like half the Spanish I know is because it was because of that.
No, that was specifically not just for Gio Rams. I said out loud it was for both of you and for the audience. So I didn't.
Yeah, I will say I'm big on culture. You know this.
Yeah,
you know me my whole life.
Yep.
I've been in Black Student Union. I've been in a lot of stuff. I learned a lot about Africa by discovering my Puerto Rican roots.
Yeah.
From the dance, I know you had mentioned something pertaining to music, Q. The actual first type of music that was on in Puerto Rico is a form of music called bomba. Now, bomba, you play the conga. The conga comes from Conga, Africa. Right. The first music in Puerto Rico, which was actually on Bad Bunny's album, and which you heard some of it during the songs that we're playing, is from the bomba players. So Africa is very tied in. We eat the plátanos, which is plantains, that comes from Africa. We eat yuca, which is cassava, which comes from Africa. The bomba y plena, the dances that we do, it's very tight. And this is the first music that was in Puerto Rico. So Africa is very tied into it, as a lot of Latin American cultures. Sometimes, with any culture, they have their form of colorism. That does happen from time to time, but it's undeniable. Like, you can't deny the food. You can't deny the flavor. You can't deny the music. You can't deny the rhythms. Like, it's all interwoven. So what I've learned is that, like, we are more together than we are apart.
That's what I've always
We're
felt.
more connected.
I've always felt that way.
Than we are separate. And I think that's the beauty of, like, discovering or being welcomed into the world, or learning about different cultures, and Benito, Bad Bunny, trying to bring you in to say, hey, look, this is us, but I bet you'll find some of you inside of this here with what we have.
Saying, Q.
Because it truly is a connection. And everyone, that's the beauty of culture. You have to learn about it. You can't just have one plain thing. You learn about it, and you learn about different cultures, and you find something about your own culture, and you grow, and the connections grow deeper, and you're like, hey, we're more together than we are separate.
So we're going to have to switch gears eventually. We'll do it after we go to break. But with that said, and with what you said, Q, it's so hard to imagine how a group of people would look at that and then say, no, we don't want that. And for you, there's never been a time in your life, there's never been a time in Puerto Rico's, the last, 100 plus years of Puerto Rico's existence, that anybody from that island hasn't been a U.S. citizen. But to live through all of this divisiveness and all this hate pointed at brown people, we have to talk about that because that's something people need to know about as well. So we implore you to stick around because we'll be back with that part of the conversation right after this.